The Nasdaq dropped 228.12 points, or 2.04%, to close at 10,970.99. The S&P 500 lost 0.74%, ending at 3,830.60. Both indexes snapped three-day winning streaks. The swings reflect a tug-of-war between corporate America and the Federal Reserve. Before we continue, if you enjoyed watching the video, please share your thoughts by clicking the like button and writing them in the comments section below. If you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, you will be among the first people to find out when new videos are published on the channel. So let's just get started. The goods trade deficit in goods increased 5.7% to $92.2 billion last month. The increase reversed only a portion of the prior month's declines, leaving the gap considerably smaller in the third quarter. But that did not change expectations that trade would lead an anticipated rebound in economic growth. Trade and consumer spending were the economy's only bright spots in the second quarter. Wholesale inventories rose 0.8% last month after advancing 1.4% in August, while motor vehicle inventories jumped 1.9%. Excluding motor vehicles, retail inventories dipped 0.1% after rising 0.7% the previous month. Retail inventories were the biggest single drag on GDP in the second quarter. Sales fell 10.9% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 603,000 units in September. Higher borrowing costs continued to exert downward pressure on the housing market. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate averaged 6.94% last week, the highest in 20 years, up from 6.92% in the prior week. There are signs that the ebbing demand for homes is cooling house price inflation. Consumer Price Index jumped 1.8% in the September quarter, topping market forecasts of 1.6%. Annual rate shot up to 7.3%, from 6.1%, the highest since 1990 and almost 3 times the pace of wage growth. The result stoked pressure for a return to more aggressive rate hikes by the country's central bank. Australia's inflation rate hit a 32-year high in September, with food prices rising at an annual pace of 9.0%, official figures show. The Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, now appears to be leaning towards a half-point rate hike in December. The cash rate is currently at 2.6%, but could rise to as high as 4.20% by the end of the year. Meta's revenue declined 4% year-over-year to $27.7 billion in the third quarter. The company is contending with a broad slowdown in online ad spending, challenges from Apple's iOS privacy update and increased competition from TikTok. Meta is expected to post its third straight quarter of declining sales for the year. It said revenue for the fourth quarter will be $30 billion to $32.5 billion. Analysts were expecting sales of $31.2 billion. The Virginia-based plane maker is trying to emerge from overlapping crises, the pandemic and the grounding of its best-selling model after fatal crashes. Rising cost pressures over the last few months have hampered fixed-price contracts for U.S. aerospace and defense firms. Agency Partners estimates the company's various fixed-price defense contracts have already resulted in $8.8 billion of charges. Boeing now expects to deliver 375 planes this year, lower than an earlier target of low 400s. The company said while demand for commercial planes remains strong, supply chain constraints continue to challenge the industry. To ramp up production, the company said it has added more than 10,000 employees this year. The British lender posted a net profit attributable to shareholders of £1.512 billion, $1.73 billion, above consensus expectations. The group continued to take a hit from an overissuance of securities in the US, which have led to £996 million in litigation and conduct charges so far this year. The largest upward contribution to the bank's performance came from its fixed income, currencies and commodities trading operations. Barclays shares will begin Wednesday's trading session down almost 20% on the year. Group income including the impact from the overissuance of securities hit £6 billion, up from £5.5 billion for the same period last year. Return on tangible equity, ROTE, was 12.5%, compared to 11.4% in the third quarter of 2021. Deutsche Bank reported a net income of €1.115 billion, $1.11 billion, for the quarter. Analysts had predicted a net profit of €827 million, according to Refinitiv. Revenues rose 15% from a year ago, and hit €6.92 billion. The bank said it had further reduced its exposure to Russian credit over the same period. Deutsche Bank reported higher provisions for potential exposure to Russia at the end of the third quarter. The bank has been cutting its ties with Russia in the wake of Moscow's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. Despite this, additional contingent risk fell to €0.2 billion, from the €0.6 billion at the beginning of the second quarter. Euro climbs back above parity against the dollar for the first time in a month. Speculation that the Federal Reserve will slow its interest rate hikes sent the greenback tumbling. The European common currency rose as high as $1.0048, the highest since September 20. The dollar also fell against the Japanese yen, sliding 0.6% to 147.0. The Canadian dollar hit its strongest level in 3 weeks ahead of a Bank of Canada meeting later in the day. Bitcoin was 12.83% higher at around $20,700, and Ether was up 5.1% just above $1,500, building on Tuesday's 8.7% surge. The Australian dollar rose 1.24% to $0.64735 ahead of an interest rate decision next week. Oil prices rose on Wednesday on supply concerns and a weaker dollar, but U.S. stockpile data capped gains. Brent crude futures for December were up 54 cents, or 0.58%, at $94.06 a barrel by 1,312 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude futures for December were up 80 cents, or 0.94%, at $86.12. A weaker US dollar sent a bullish signal, making oil cheaper for holders of other currencies. Ongoing supply constraints added further support, with the International Energy Agency's head highlighting the first truly global energy crisis. Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman warned on Tuesday that energy stockpiles were being used as a mechanism to manipulate markets. But support for prices was capped on Wednesday by a 4.5 million barrel rise in U.S. crude inventories in the week ending October 21, according to market sources citing figures from the American Petroleum Institute.